Good morning, everyone. We welcome you all to OrthoTV online spiritual Saturday webinar. And today we have today's speaker is Swami Mukundananda. And I would hand over to our moderator, Dr. Tushar Agrawal, pediatric orthopedic surgeon from Kandivali West, and also having his own hospital in by the name of Asta Hospital. We are also having the pleasure of having our president of the Pediatric Orthopedic Society of India, Dr. Dhiren Ganjwala. So over to you, Tushar.
Also, Dr. Chiniwala, my colleague, arthroscopic and sports surgeon, has joined us. We are permanent fixtures in the Spiritual Saturday. Good morning to all of you all, and thank you so much for joining us. Thanks a lot. And today, all those who are present and all those who will see this later are blessed by Swami Mukundananda ji himself. We have been trying to get this session online for weeks, and today the date has come, and we are truly blessed. Swami Mukundananda ji is an academician. Actually, he has an IIT and an IIM alumnus. He is an engineer with a huge management degree behind him. And all through, his primary passion has been studying the Vedic literature. And he tries to bring about everything modern which has been written about the mind and mind control. And then he links it with our Vedic scriptures, how it is mentioned in the Vedic scriptures. And after going through his book, what I feel is that we Indians find it much more logical to follow the Vedic scripture and the Vedic way of mind control. And it is far more lucid and far easier. For years, Swamiji has been heading a sainthood and has numerous devotees all over the world. They're innumerable. And he has been lecturing throughout. The innumerable lectures to his name. They can be seen on YouTube everywhere. And today we are truly blessed by him having presented his another new book called The Science of Mind Management. And that is the core theme today of today's talk. So over to you, Swamiji. Today's theme would be audience who have joined us, that Swamiji will be talking to us for some time now. And then please punch in your questions to us on the available WhatsApp link, and then we can ask those questions to Swamiji. So Radhe Radhe Swamiji, and over to you.
Namaste and Radhe Radhe Tushar ji and all the panelists. Thank you for inviting me to your program. It is my pleasure and privilege to discuss with you some words of wisdom from the Vedic scriptures on the topic of science of mind management. Just checking, is my audio?
Yes.
Great. We are all looking for happiness, for success, for fulfillment. And society has presented us with the model for achieving these. If we get money, if we get fame, if we have power and status, then success is guaranteed and happiness is a natural byproduct. But the reality of life is much different. Again and again and again, we come across people who have all this, and yet they are miserable failures, to the extent that let me share with you the story of Elvis Presley. In the 1960s, he was called the king of rock and roll, or simply the king. He was hugely successful for his golden voice and his amazing looks. The consequence was he had tremendous fame, money, popularity. But what was his personal life? When he would return from his public performance, he would tell his servants, "Give me my first hit." And they would put an injection behind his shoulder blade of barbiturates, give him some colored crystals, and then a race would begin. How many sandwiches and coffee he could take before he fell asleep. The next time he would wake up, at 4 in the morning and say, "Give me my second hit." Now, this time the voice was more feeble, the same process would repeat. And the third time he would wake up at midday. And this time, whether he asked or he did not, he would receive the third hit. Finally, taking drugs, he'd bring himself to the wakeful state and go for his performance and then return. When he died, people did not know whether it was an overdose of drugs or was it a suicide. Here was someone who had everything and yet did not achieve happiness. So, what is the way to happiness? Our Vedic scriptures tell us your happiness does not depend upon anything on the outside. It is all a consequence of the attitudes and emotions you harbor within yourself in your own mind. This mind is such that staying in hell, if the mind is poised and calm, it will make you experience heaven. And staying in the most wonderful heavenly delights, if the mind is disturbed, you will experience the torments of hell. That is why in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna said, Uddharedatmanatmanam atmanam avasadhayet atmaiva hyatmano bandhu ratmaiva ripuratmanaha. Arjun, uplift yourself by the power of your mind. Do not degrade yourself, because the mind can be your best friend, but it can also be your worst enemy. Interestingly, the mind is an internal resource. That internal resource is the most important thing in our life. 2000 years ago, Jagat Guru Shankaracharya said, Jagat Jitam Kena. Who shall influence and impact the world? And he answered it himself, Manohiyena, that person who has conquered his or her own mind. So the mind will also influence our health. Since you are all doctors, out of experience, you are aware of the mind-body connection. You know, in the Harvard Medical School, Herbert Benson, who wrote the famous Relaxation Response worldwide bestseller, he established this mind-body department. 60 years ago, if medical science was told that our thoughts impact our health, they would have said this is all hocus pocus. But today, it's a scientifically established fact. Interestingly, this information existed in our Vedic scriptures thousands of years ago. There is an episode in the Yoga Vasisht where Lord Ram toured his kingdom of Ayodhya, and he saw people affected by disease, Vyadhi Grast. So on returning, he asked his Guru, Maharshi Vasisht, Gurudev, what is the cause of disease? Maharshi Vasisht gave a very perceptive answer. He said, Ram, it all begins with the mind. When we harbor negative thoughts, poisonous thoughts, this disturbs the Manamay Kosh, the mental sheath. So this holistic perspective of the Vedas says your personality is not just the gross body. It has 5 sheaths. The gross body is the Annamaya Kosh. Beyond that is the vital energy sheath, the Pranmaya Kosh. And beyond that is the Manmaya Kosh, the mental sheath. So this mental sheath, when it gets agitated with negative thoughts, that disturbs the pranamaya kosh, or the vital energy sheath. And that vital energy sheath, on being disturbed, it manifests in the form of disease in the gross body or the annamaya kosh. So whether we wish to be physically healthy or mentally healthy, because even the World Health Organization now defines health as the complete physical, emotional, social, and spiritual well being of an individual. It all requires mind management. Further, our scriptures say that this mind is more complex than you can ever realize. It has got 4 aspects to it: the man, buddhi, chit, and ahankar. Ahankar is the ego. The chit is the subconscious. Buddhi is the intellect. So the purpose of today's discussion, let's just keep these two, the mind and the intellect. They are not 2 separate entities. They are 2 aspects of the one antahkaran, or ethereal heart. The mind decides. It has the values, beliefs, knowledge. The mind, the intellect decides. It has the values, beliefs, knowledge, and the mind has the emotions, the desires. So between the mind and the intellect, there is a struggle. The intellect says that cheese sandwich is not good for your cholesterol count and the waistline. And the mind says the taste is so pleasurable, I wish to enjoy it. Now, depending on whether the mind wins or the intellect wins, you take the course of action. We people think our mind is not under our control. But the fact is, if our intellect decides, it can control the mind in a moment. Let me give you an example. One person is hungry since 4 days. After 4 days, his mind is yearning because it's tormented. Food, food, and so is the intellect and the senses. You bring for him on a plate Chappan Vyanjan, 56 kinds of delicacies, and say, eat. He sees the hot gulab jamun, and the tongue is mouth-watering at the opportunity for pleasure. The mind asks the intellect, here's the solution to my miseries. Can we relish that gulab jamun? It will give great pleasure. The intellect sanctions, go ahead. The intellect has sanctioned the mind has instructed the hand. You have lifted the gulab jamun and you're bringing it close. Already the salivation is happening. Now, in that mudra, can vairagya happen? Can you be forced to give it away? Yes, if the intellect is convinced. Let us say somebody screams, what are you doing? You wish to die? Immediately the person halts. Die? There's something wrong here. The intellect tells the mind, stop. The mind tells the hand, stop. What is the matter? Don't you know there is poison in it? If you eat it, you will die. Poison? The intellect makes a split-second decision. This is harmful for me. Throw it away. That person who was hungry since 4 days has chucked away the gulab jamun. Against the power of the intellect, the mind doesn't have the capacity to tug. So the problem is that our intellect is not convinced. The day it becomes convinced on the proper beneficial course of actions, we will have no problem in controlling the mind. Let me give you another example. One child finds it very difficult to study. His parents come to me, Swamiji, beta padhta nahi hai, kya kare? Why don't you study, beta? Uncle, my mind doesn't go to studies. Big problem, mind does not go. But the same child, when he or she goes for the exam and is there in the hall, for 2 hours he focuses the mind and shuts out the world. Now it is just the question and the best possible answer. The child whose mind was chanchal has brought it under control. How did this happen? Because the intellect decided these 2 hours are extremely important. Now, if you are careless, you will lose out the whole year. So the moment the intellect decided, it controlled the mind. That kind of focus, if it was retained through the year, that child would have become a national merit scholar. But why was the focus not there? Because the intellect thought studies is not important. It's important for my parents. That is why in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, Arjun, what I am explaining to you is Buddhi Yoga, the yoga of the intellect. We have heard of Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga. But in the Bhagavad Gita, 4 times Lord Krishna says, Buddhi Yoga Mupashritya Machittah Satatam Bhavaha. If you can correct your intellect, then correcting the mind will become quite easy. So, to correct the intellect, we need divine knowledge. That is what the Gayatri Mantra states. People often ask me, Swamiji, what is the meaning of the Gayatri? So there are so many esoteric interpretations for it. But I say just take the simple meaning. Om Bhur Bhuva Swah Tat Savitur Varenyam. It is saying that Lord who is illuminating the 3 worlds, Bhu Bhuva Swah. I am surrendering at his feet. May he illumine my intellect with divine knowledge. Now in one prayer, you have asked for everything. Because if your intellect becomes illumined, if you develop the beneficial beliefs, your life will automatically veer in the auspicious direction. So how do we develop these beneficial beliefs? The Maitreya Upanishad states, Shravan, Kirtan, Nididhyasan. Hear good knowledge, divine knowledge. This knowledge is so powerful that you can seat yourself on this knowledge and cross over the ocean of material existence. But then merely hearing will not suffice. We all hear that anger is a bad thing. The problem is in the implementation. One lady came to me and said, Swamiji, baki sab to theek hai, gussa bahut aata hai. Please give me a gem of knowledge with which I can conquer my anger. I said, Devi ji, anger hurts you. Why do you want to hurt yourself? Simple logic. If I give you a pin and say, jab yourself with it, you'll say, why should I hurt myself? Nobody wishes to hurt themselves. Similarly, you become angry on the other, but it burns your heart, dirties your mind, and burns your blood. So don't hurt yourself. She said, Swamiji, this knowledge you have given is very useful. I said, but it will be no use to you. Because when the attack of anger comes, that knowledge will disappear. You will make the mistake and later on regret, what did I do? So, tattva vismaranad bhekivat. The moment a human being forgets knowledge, that human being falls to the level of animals. That is why it's not just a question of hearing or reading. What we have heard, we must revise it. And by revising, stabilize the knowledge within ourselves. That is called mananam or chintan. What is chintan? It is one of the most powerful shaktis placed in the hands of humans. Chintan means to repeat a thought again and again and again. If our chintan is wrong, मैं तो फेल हो गया, अब क्या करूंगा, फेल हो गया, अब क्या करूंगा, people go and commit suicide. And if your chintan is right, if you are repeating the right thought, the right piece of knowledge, you can transform your mind infinitely without limit. In other words, our mind is infinitely teachable. That is the power of chintan. So hear good knowledge, then revise it, and subsequent to that, nididhyasan. What is nididhyasan? The third and final one. Nididhyasan means establish beliefs based upon that knowledge. Beliefs are our internal lighthouses. It is based on our beliefs that we move ahead in life. If you people became doctors and I became a Swami, why did this stark contrast happen? What is it that determined these two different pathways? It was our belief systems. Your internal belief told you that the path to happiness or to money or to fulfillment, or service, or whatever you were looking for will be served by this medical line. And my belief told me that the thing I really value in life is in the spiritual side. So these beliefs are so important. Our whole life is decided by it. People come and tell me, Swamiji, hamara teenage beta bigad gaya hai. What to do? I say, just check the company he is keeping. If he's fallen in the wrong company, those avara log, they have changed his belief system. And the moment the belief system is changed, his whole life is in jeopardy. To the extent our Vedas say that, look, if you can just correct your beliefs, you will attain God. What does that mean? That means the highest goal you can achieve merely through beliefs. The definition of God, we all know. He is everywhere. He's an ocean of bliss. He's the creator. He's sitting inside. We tell each other also, बिना भगवान की इच्छा के एक पत्ता भी नहीं हिलता. But the problem is we don't believe. The Vedas say the day you believe this very piece of knowledge which you are speaking, that very day you will become God realized. Now, this important aspect of our personality, we are not talking about the physical, we have gone right in our beliefs. Unfortunately, they just happen to us. We don't choose them. Just like in America, they say that the son of a Democrat is a Democrat and the son of a Republican is a Republican. I am speaking to you from Dallas today, Dallas, Texas. So the saying shows that beliefs happen. Why did you become a Hindu or Christian or Muslim? You were born in a certain faith and those beliefs came hereditarily. So the biggest thing in our life just happens to us. Instead of that, use good knowledge, receive good knowledge, create good beliefs, and empower your intellect with those beliefs. Now, with this empowered intellect, control the mind. First, it will be difficult, but slowly, good habits will get created. Just like physical habits are created, those who have habituated to drugs, they are so caught by the habit that medical community now realizes it's a physical condition that has grabbed the person. So the mental habits of thoughts can also be created. But I am covering this very quickly now. When we start doing this, we will realize that we are trying to work on the conscious mind. And there is an aspect of the mind of which we are not even aware, which is the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind has your memories from your childhood. Imagine the hard drive capacity of the subconscious. If you try and record your favorite serial on TV the year long, you realize the hard drive gets finished. And here we have recorded, that episode when I was 5 years old, the smells, the feelings, the video, audio, everything. This huge subconscious is actually determining our behaviors. So first we program our subconscious. I am no good, I can never do it, mujhse to kabhi hoga nahi. And then the subconscious governs our behaviors. So the subconscious is like a perfect servant. Whatever we tell it, it will obey. And then it will impinge upon our behaviors. If we wish to make it our best friend, we need to use certain tools with our conscious mind. One of those is self-talk. Self-affirmation. Speak to yourself. I am blessed. I will be a success. I am happy. And you will program your subconscious accordingly. But then in English, they say a picture is worth 1,000 words. So there is also the technique of visualization that has been used successfully for optimal performance. Sports personalities realize the importance of optimal performance because a fraction of a second can mean you lose the gold medal and get a bronze medal instead. So they use the power of visualization. In other words, they hold the image in their mind and then they let it sink into the subconscious. So the subconscious controls the physical, mental processes, which are millions, which are beyond the capacity of the conscious mind, and it enables peak performance. So, like this, there are other tools. The biggest tool for mind management is meditation. I have covered these tools and the whole science of mind management with Vedic perspective, using crystal clear logic and worldly illustrations to emphasize the importance of the mind in our lives and to enable us to manage it. So, this was recently released and it is based on that book that today's program has been organized. And I would now like to welcome any questions if anyone has.
So, Swamiji, we are truly blessed to have heard you. I and Dr. Dhiren have gone through your book. I have actually finished it cover to cover, which is a difficult task actually to read today to sit, but it was so amazing, so lucid, and so simply written. Uh, if you could just elaborate on the karma theory, and if you could just explain in brief, why do good thing happens to bad people and why do bad thing happens to good people, then we will be blessed even more.
This is a question that puzzles a lot of people. The law of karma is very simple. It's the law of action and reaction. So we have all studied in school Newton's third law of motion, of action and reaction. When it comes to our actions, it becomes the law of karma. The Bible says, as you sow, that shall you also reap. And the Ramayana says, karma pradhan vishva kari rakha, jo jas karai so tas phalu chakha. So why people get puzzled is they see this person is doing good and he's suffering. And somebody else is doing bad and he is becoming successful. Then now they become confused. So we need to remember out here that first of all, our philosophy is not of one lifetime. It extends to many lifetimes. So we cannot pass a judgment on somebody we do not know their past karmas. And secondly, the purpose of the law of karma is not that we should become comfortable and enjoy worldly things. The purpose of all of creation is that the soul should evolve spiritually in goodness, in virtue, and reach the ultimate supreme perfection. So sometimes those difficulties and hardships, they come as a blessing of God. It is in those difficulties that we shine from within. So from a material perspective, we think ये तो बहुत बुरा हो गया, साहब बिगड़ गया, business failure हो गया. But from the spiritual perspective, if we are growing from inside, the purpose is being served. Just like a caterpillar, it weaves a cocoon around itself and then hibernates inside. And then after 20 days or so, it starts coming out. Now, when it is coming out, it struggles. And if you see it struggling to emerge, you say, oh my God, so much of difficulty. And you snip the cocoon. Okay, problem's over. That half that butterfly will fall to the ground. It will not be able to fly up. Because in the struggle, it would have pushed all the fluid from its stomach, and without its wings will remain crippled. So, similarly, for the spiritual flight of the soul, we need to fill up our wings. And sometimes those difficulties and hardships are blessings in disguise. So the law of karma stands where it is, but beyond that is the law of the universe, which is pushing all the souls forward. And based on that, it seems to us sometimes confusing that bad things are happening to good people.
Can I, Tushar, ask something?
Yeah, please.
I don't know if it's pertinent. I don't know how you feel about my question, that the purpose of all these spiritual teachings, when it is transferred to people, we say that our aim is to liberate the soul. Our whole purpose is to go beyond. Can it not be that the whole purpose of life is no purpose? That's why we call God's creation a Leela, because it is done without any purpose. It is not, He has not meant for us to be liberated. Why can't we just not pursue anything, whether it's happiness, sorrow, or anything? Why can't we just accept things as they are? It's supposed to be. It's like I always feel an example of an ant. When a morsel of sugar falls on the ground and the ant picks up, the ant feels that the whole universe has conspired for that morsel of sugar to fall down for her. But for us, when the morsel of sugar falls, it just falls. It's our mistake that it fell. But for someone, it is the conspiracy of universe to feed that ant. So being human beings, we always want to think beyond. We want to achieve something. We are unhappy. Is the purpose of all this spiritual awakening is just one more pursuit of getting something which we don't have? Like someone wants success in money.
I was not talking about liberation. I was only talking about how you can be happy, how
So
you
that
can be
pursuit of
positive.
happiness doesn't give,
Okay,
is that pursuit
let me
of
answer.
happiness?
Let me answer. So I was just explaining how you can be happy, how you can be successful. I explained that happiness depends on your mind and you need to manage your mind. So I was giving you the practical benefits of spirituality. In my whole discussion, we did not talk about liberation, right? I was explaining to you that even your health depends upon the state of the mind. So if you want to be healthy, if you want to be happy, if you want to be positive, then learn how to manage the mind. But at the same time, this question came up, that what is the purpose of life? So this question is also important. You see, the secret of life is, it is not objects that give us happiness. The thing that really fulfills us in life is to find a meaning and purpose higher than ourselves and to dedicate ourselves to it. When somebody has a purpose, they will tolerate hardships, they will tolerate difficulties. Because the purpose, meaningful life. So the moment you say that life has no meaning, now you can say, okay, the purpose of life is to live this moment fully, but that is also a meaning. But if you say there is no meaning at all to life, then you will not be able to experience the happiness and the fulfillment. Okay, so for that higher purpose, the moment you get that purpose, you will be like, why do you work so hard? Because you have found a purpose. I have a family to take care of. I have children to raise. And that is enables you to give your best, to strive your hardest. So wherever human beings excelled, Wherever they reached the highest levels of performance, it was a purpose that was driving them. So those who ask this question, why, they also get an answer to spirituality. But the problem is that people get stuck there and then they forget that spirituality has also got a practical angle. And that is why I am only explaining the practical angle. Okay?
Correct.
Okay, Swamiji, you in the beginning of lecture, you mentioned that the material things, that's the money, position, post, fame, does not give happiness. Fine, which is, I agree to that. But most of the people, they don't accept this statement and they go in this direction all throughout their life. And at the end, probably they may accept that what was told to them in the beginning is not right. So first, what is the reason why they really want to don't accept the statement which is said by so many philosophers, so many spiritual people? That's one. And the second is how we can convince them or make them understand that this statement is correct.
That's right. So your observation is very correct that most of the people are searching for happiness in these things. That if I get so much of wealth, I will definitely be happy. But you go and ask the people who have the wealth, are you happy? They will say, wahi halat hai. The studies in America have shown that once you reach an annual income of $75,000 per annum, after that, the happiness level remains the same right up to Jeff Bezos. In other words, it is an illusion. The illusion ka matlab, oh, the person who is lakpati is thinking karodpati will be happy. Now the karodpati is thinking, I am not happy, the Arabpati must be happy. So our Vedas say this is a mrig trishna. It is like the mirage. You create a desire in the hope of happiness. Now you fulfill it. So the moment you fulfill it, you experience happiness for a little while, but that desire comes back double. Now you fulfill it, then it comes back 4 times. So every time you fulfill it, it comes back. And the consequence is that you are trying to put out a fire by pouring ghee on it. So you keep on providing your senses, the objects of the senses. There is no end to it. To the extent our scriptures, Sara sansar mil jaye, to bhi ye trishna ki purti nahi hogi. So then we wonder what is going on out here. So the Vedas say, look, there are 2 kinds of happiness, Shreya and Prayer. Prayer happiness is so sweet right now, but later on it turns bitter. See, as the medical community, you know very well why people fall sick. They cannot control their tongues. They will eat the wrong things. They will do the wrong things. They are running after prayer happiness. And what is true happiness? The Shreya happiness, which is bitter right now, but later on it becomes very sweet. So you tell them, look, you follow a diet, you do exercise, it seems so terrible, but it bestows them good health and it becomes sweet. So this mystery, prayer and Shreya, most people are either not able to decipher it, or if they can decipher, they lose the battle. Because they say, prayer is so alluring, I will just go for it. So it is a few who exercise the vivek or the wisdom and then implement the discipline. So the discipline required to control the mind and take it to the direction where you will get true happiness and true success.
But just in continuation, how can we convince them to follow the correct path of living a life of a meaning or a purpose? How to convince them?
Yes. See, many things get together to create that wisdom or to create that faith in good knowledge. Sometimes it is the pain and the miseries of the world. When we have bad experiences, when we experience misery, then we say, oh, I was running in the wrong direction. I was running on the outside. I need to now prioritize my inside and run on the inside to improve myself from within. So sometimes the bad experiences, they help us mature. Sometimes it is the good knowledge when people hear, then it may click that, oh, this seems logical, this seems convincing. Sometimes it is the company they keep. So sang ka rang pad jata hai. You associate with sharabis and you become like that. You associate with people who have good knowledge, this kind of questions they ask. So automatically it starts settling down in the intellect. So if you wish to convince somebody about it, I think the best way is to present this knowledge in a logical way. But remember, ultimately you can bring a horse to the water, but you cannot make it drink. So many saints, they came and they left, right? So they only presented the knowledge. After that, it is a freedom of choice of every soul.
Swamiji, is it our karma that we are attracted to such knowledge? And how do we burn our bad karmas?
Both are past karmas and present karmas, they get together. So definitely there is an aspect of past karmas that creates this kind of propensity, that creates this kind of interest. There's bhagyo dain bahujanma samarjitena satsangam cha labhate purusho yadavai. जब बहुत जन्मों के भाग्य उदय होते हैं तो सत्संग में रुचि हो जाती है. Person develops interest in such kind of holy discussions. But at the same time, we do not know what is our karma. So if we say, if it is in my destiny, then I'll do this, then maybe we may just remain stuck. So along with destiny, self-effort must also be there. So whatever was written in the karma, we will get the fruit by itself. But what is in our hands presently is the effort. So put in your effort. In other words, if you have a choice, you choose the good thing. That will open up your karmas, and again make a good choice. It will open up your karmas. So thought by thought, choice by choice, we start climbing that path to auspiciousness in our life.
Yeah.
Like you said a wonderful thing about that example of a gulab jambu. Like the person was very hungry, he has not eaten anything for 4 days, and then he was craving for the food. Now, and then someone said that don't eat because it's a poison. Now we see this situation time and again in our practice, in our medical practice, that a person is obese. He is weighing, say, like around 90 kg or 100 kg. He has a blood pressure, he has a diabetes, he has a orthopedic problem. We want to tell him that or her that please reduce your weight. We tell them, but most of them, they don't listen to that suggestion. So like in your case, it was an extreme fear that it's a poison and it's going to kill you.
Right.
We can't be that serious in our practice, and we can't tell to our patient that this is a poison, your overweight is a poison. So how to convince them for that?
Right. So that is what happens is that the immediate pleasure is right there. It is perceptible. And the long-term benefits that the doctor is talking about, they are so far away. They are intangible. So then the person thinks, I don't know, the intellect is not fully convinced. If the intellect had got convinced, they would have done it, right? So you have to revise the harm that is happening by the present habits and the benefits that will happen by the changed habits. And at the same time, if the habits are not changed, then what is the harm that will happen? So in these multiple ways, the intellect has to be convinced. In fact, I have mentioned that in the book, that you look at this and look at this, make a list, go over it, revise it. So the same thing, Shravan, Manan, and Nididhyasan. Here, think about it and develop faith.
So, Swamiji, in spite of knowing the best things for ourselves, it's very difficult to change our belief systems. So, can you briefly elaborate on how we can change a belief system to empower ourselves more?
Absolutely. This belief system is very difficult to change. If it got changed, the whole life would change. So practically, we walk in our life based on our belief. In other words, whichever direction our life veers, if somebody developed the belief, sabse bada rupaiya, and that person's whole life is spent just earning money. Somebody else developed the belief that fame is the most important, and he is spending his whole life trying to acquire fame. And in this way, we are all going in the direction of our beliefs. So the whole world is trying to steal our beliefs. All these advertisements, which come on the Tandurusti ki raksha karta hai life boy and all, what are they trying to tell you? They're trying to establish your belief that if you get the life boy soap, then your health will be maintained. So now from 100,000 sides, people are tugging at your beliefs. And where you place them will determine your life. So that is why the Vedas say that be very careful. Don't create beliefs on hearsay, doston ne bol diya, etc. Get good knowledge. This is the Vedic knowledge. And then Shravan, hear it again and again and again. You may say, okay, I have just heard it once. Swamiji, I've heard you on YouTube, but it doesn't work. What we hear evaporates. So you have to revise that knowledge. So that is the Shravan. And after revising, think about it. The repeated thinking, then it will settle down. Just like when the student prepares for the exam, that student realizes it is important. And then the student revises it. So when we decide that this kind of knowledge is so important, then we will not be careless about it. We will revise it also again and again. That chintan, and after that, nididhyasan means with your intellect, you decide, this is it. So you decide again and again, this is it. I am the soul, I am not the body. So this process helps to establish that belief.
Right?
Okay. I should like to understand that everyone says that the life with a purpose definitely is a way to happiness. You have also mentioned that in your book really well. The question is how to find out the purpose of your life. So can you guide us? Definitely, like thinking about like how can I help people is one way of doing that. But how we can find out the purpose of our life?
I like to explain this at two levels. One is where you don't go into the bigger questions, you remain with the smaller questions. We all want to be the best that we can be. We all want to grow and be the best we can be. So we want to be good. Second one, we want to do good. I mean, we all want to see that my work is making a difference, whether in one person or two people, but my work is creating an impact in this world. So we want to do good. And the consequence of this, we want to feel good. We want to be happy, right? So I explain the purpose as these three: to do good, to be good, and consequently to feel good. But if you go a little more into philosophy, so you then ask yourself, who am I? And you will realize by analysis with knowledge that I am not the body. The body is material and perishable. I am an eternal entity that is referred to as the soul, the Atman, the Jiva. So that Jiva or soul is non-material. That's why your medical instruments can never reach it, because they are all material and it is spiritual. It is the basis of consciousness in your body. So the conscious is not coming from the physical organs. It is coming because of the presence of the soul. The moment the soul leaves, that consciousness will slowly fade away. So when the first step then is to understand, who am I? And that soul is not independent of creation. It is a part of all creation, the entire universe. So the goal of the soul is to reach the supreme perfection. You can call it God realization, you can call it divine love, or whatever, to reach that the fulfillment of this journey of the soul, which has been continuing since endless lifetimes, which has brought you to this stage in this life. Now the purpose of your life is to complete that spiritual evolution to the ultimate perfection.
Right, Swamiji, it has been an invaluable hour that we have spent with you. It's unfortunately it's coming to an end, and we have privilege only of spending 60 minutes with you today. So, with the kind permission of the house, I'll just make some few concluding remarks. So,
Definitely.
Swamiji told us that there is a deeper aspect to ourselves, which is of mind and intellect, below the body and the breath, within the body and the breath. And the mind is eternally in a chatter mode. So, unless we are able to use our intellect constantly to get a grip on this mind, we are not going to be able to reach anywhere and direct any aspect of our being. Second important point he said is that listening to this divine knowledge once is not enough. We have to continuously imbibe, repeat, revise, ruminate upon it in various forms for it to become innate to us. The third most important point which I got from his book is that achieving success does not give you happiness. On the contrary, you start in a happy mood and you will feel more successful. It actually goes the reverse way. I would encourage all the audience today to spread this good word, to see this webinar again and again, to send it to their friends, relatives, whoever they feel would be interested in listening to us. And also take a glimpse of his book. It's available on Kindle, it's available on Amazon. And then and only then we'll be able to revise and ruminate upon what we have heard and listened today. So there is a difference between hearing and listening. So you all have heard us today, but listening is when you act upon what you have heard today. So let us take a pledge to listen to Swamiji today and not merely hear him. So if we have to listen, we go back to his book, we learn more, we imbibe more, and hopefully Swamiji has so much wisdom to incorporate to us. Couple of months down the line, when we become a little wiser reading his book, maybe when we have him again, we will be able to ask him more questions and get on better with our lives. So with that, I would, with blessings of Swamiji, I would like to conclude today's session, and we thank all our moderators who have taken the time out to come be with us and all the audience who joined us on Ortho TV, and all of us who join us week on week on Spiritual Saturdays. Please spread the good word. Please join us on Spiritual Saturday. It's your words of encouragement that keeps us involved, keeps us get one and more such divine souls to guide us through this pandemic period. Thank you very much. Radhe Radhe.
Thank you.
And Radhe Radhe.